Hey, good evening, and welcome to this week's edition of the Ride Along Radio Show, the show where we give you the experience of riding in a virtual police car with two grizzled police veterans as we patrol the mean streets of Los Angeles. Then, I don't know if they're as mean as they used to be, or maybe we're just not as mean as we used to be.
Oh, they're mean. The streets are mean.
They are?
And they're getting meaner.
I don't know, man. I've driven into shootouts before.
We're going to talk about
I had to get busy with it.
We're going to talk about it. Got some video clips all lined up.
Okay, let's see.
It is mean, and it's getting meaner.
Yeah, but I don't know if it was we were there at the peak, the Colors days of Pac-Man or, whatever, right? That was back in the day, so it was a little bit different. We had run and gun battles back then.
Yeah. Well, what I mean by meaner, and you're right, there's still violence, but it's mostly on each other out there, criminal on criminal. Although it's shifted now, and the police are, under attack.
Well, when I say running gun battles, I mean we were getting shot at too.
Oh no, I remember that.
Yeah, I know you were there. I know you remember.
I vividly remember.
Yeah,
I'm gonna tell you, we had a running gun battle in East LA, one of the big projects up there, and it was at night, so. There was this officer needs help, shots fired, and you hear them running, right? So me and my partner was Dave Verona. We rolled in, and all darked out. You get out of the car, and you can hear the gunshots. You go pow, 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 but it sounds bouncing off the buildings, right?
Sure, in the projects.
So you hear screaming on the radio, officer, we're running this way. and I remember taking cover by a corner of a building. I had my gun in my hand, and I'm waiting, and then all of a sudden, here comes a helicopter.
Right.
Under that yellow light, and then the daylight. And I remember I'm there, and I'm wondering, I have my gun in my hand, my Beretta 92F at the time.
Right.
I have my gun in my hand, and I'm looking, and I'm looking, gunshots, guys yelling on the radio, helicopter, yellow light, and I just started smiling.
Because this is what you signed up for, isn't it?
You know what? I thought in that moment, I said, this is exactly where I want to be at this moment.
Yep. I had a moment like that before, at least one. I know exactly that feeling. Yeah. And all I could think to myself was, you goddamn right. That's what went through my mind was, you goddamn right. Because that's what I signed up for. Those moments, man, they didn't even owe me a paycheck as far as I was concerned.
That's right.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
There was no other place on earth I would have rather been than right there in that moment.
Yep. I'm with you, man. And I do miss that sometimes. Somebody asked me that the other day. Did I miss it? And I miss the camaraderie and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't miss the stupidity.
Yeah, the guys. It's the guys we worked with.
Yep.
It was your partner.
And girls, we had some damn good girls we worked with too, man. They were very, very solid.
But the Scooby Doos and Arona.
Don't forget Big Daddy Dave,
Stewart. I work with some really good, Eddie Cole. Eddie Cole's one of the best street cops I ever worked with.
Yeah.
Reginald Stewart,
and the funniest.
And the funniest guy.
And the funniest.
Now, Eddie couldn't write to save his life. I'm going to tell you that.
Is that why he always drove and I was always the passenger? Because I was always on paper?
But
he was funny as hell and smart as a whip,
smart
man.
And funny. I saw Eddie do a thing one time. I never saw anybody do this. I was still on probation, right? My FTO's on vacation, so I get to ride with Eddie.
Okay.
It's a Saturday night. We're cruising eastbound on Imperial Highway, just east of Central. And he sees this girl. I'm driving, right? He sees this girl. And he goes, hey, man, turn the car around. I passed her, right?
Yeah.
And I go, what is it? He goes, that chick back there. Just turn around. So I'm flipping the car around, turn on the ambers and do a rear deck. Turn the car around, and he goes, that chick right there, pull, I want to stop her. I go, why? He said, she got warrants. I said, how do you know? He go, whenever my leg do like this, and his leg was shaking. Whenever my leg do like this, they got warrants. Officer, just stop the car. We stop the car. We get out of the car. He does like this. He takes his FI card out of his pocket, and he goes, what's your last name? What's your first name? You got any warrants? Not that I...
Yeah, exactly. Here you go.
So he goes like this.
You start that, not that I know of, or I don't think so. Nah.
He does like this. He puts his pen away. He takes his handcuffs out. He goes, here, put these on and get in the back seat. Oh, my God. And here's this chick. She clicks one, and she's trying to hook the second one.
How do I get the other one on?
Oh, my. It was so funny.
That's comedy. That's why I say he's one of the funniest guys I ever worked with.
I'm telling you.
And, people think, I violated that person's... Did she have warrants?
She had warrants.
Damn straight she did.
And he knew what it was, and it was 647.
Exactly. Because so the moral of that story is you being a new officer, you didn't know, but he had already had contact with her. Had already run her probably a week before.
Yep. He already knew
Knew
who
she
was.
had warrants. Yeah.
Knew what she did in the community. She was a B girl.
Exactly. She was a B girl. Strawberry. We call them strawberries.
Strawberries, that's right.
I don't know if they still call them strawberries.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
They
but
call them. They don't just call them.
Man,
Crack. They don't just call them crack hoes now. They got to have a name for them. You know what I mean?
But it's those moments that I miss. You know, it's those moments, and sometimes, sometimes I'll be driving my own car, right? And just as the sun is going down, and it's that pretty, the sky's a pretty color, and it's warm out. It's summer, and it's warm, and it's just twilight going to night. I loved being on the street at that time.
Yeah, man. And you'd be out there, and it's summertime, so it's still hot. You got the windows down. You got the AC blowing though.
Yeah.
Because you got to stay cool.
Yeah, I always have the windows open, whether it's hot
you got
or
to have the
cold.
windows down. And a lot of people say, well, you don't want to have those windows down like that because somebody can throw something into the car. But yeah, here's the thing. That's true. But if it's a brick, that window ain't going to stop it anyway.
Right.
And then you got the spalling from the glass. And if it's a bullet, we rather the windows be down. It just passes through without hitting either one of us, as opposed to it hitting the glass. And then we catch some fragments from that, the spalling we call it.
And I'm going to be able to shoot back.
So that was the tactics. And you want to be able to shoot back without losing your hearing from firing inside of a car with the windows rolled up. You only do that once. That's a self-correcting
the officer involved
problem.
Exactly. And the officer involved shooting that Scooby and I were in November of 1987. I'll never forget it. That was one of the things that happened to me. My window, the gun was on my side. The round fired at the car was on my side. And when the suspect started running northbound on Mona, I had my gun in my hand, and I couldn't get out because the window was. I had to put the window down and then get out. And
Jesus Christ.
try to get a beat on.
Now, Matt, hey, fortunately you had the switch one. Man, you had to try to roll it down and get your gun out, right?
We still had some of those cars, but that wasn't one.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why I said you're lucky. Yeah, because when I got there, we had that too.
Never had my window. It was cold. It was winter. I had a big jacket on.
Yeah, it's all right.
And we had my
Keep
window
it down and blast the heater.
Halfway. That was the last time I ever did that.
Keep it down and blast the heater.
That's right.
Hey, if you want to call in and join this rollicking, fun conversation, you can reach us at 323-293-3375. And we've been at this for 40 shows now. This is show number 40. So we just assume that everybody knows who we are, but you probably don't. So I'm George Holt.
I'm Gil Contreras.
And combined, we have a whole lot of time on the police department doing different things in different places and different assignments and stuff. And so that's the perspective we lend to this show, and we tackle topics of the day that have to do with the police, have to do with the community, public safety, et cetera, and any crime-related stories, because we're going to get into some. We have
That's the crazy stuff that happened.
Yeah, a lot of stuff this week, and we knew when we started this show we'd never run out of material, right? But this week we've got a veritable plethora, a collective multitude of stories to share with you. So much so that we don't even have a particular topic today. We're just kind of freestyling here. Based on all the stuff we have in front of us to talk about. So we got a couple videos, we got a couple stories we just want to talk about, got some stories we want to tell, some lies and war stories, et cetera, as we call them. And again, that's what you get when you ride in a police car on a ride along. Is you're going to get war stories, you're going to get all kind of amusing anecdotes. At least we think they're amusing.
Yeah. You might be offended.
You might be offended.
But actually, you know what? If you're taking a real ride along, I remember we did this a couple times. Especially I had media with me a couple times, and we tried to do it nice.
But it depends on who it is. If it's media, sure.
Tried to be nice.
But if I got somebody who wants to be a cop and they're in the car with me, or God forbid, it's one of my friends who works at another police department and they want to come check the projects out,
right?
Man, you're going to get a different kind of ride along.
Oh yeah.
But you'll find that cops' humor is a little different than other people's humor. Stories that we tell are not the typical stories from, hey, honey, what happened at the office today kind of stories. I remember one time it was me, Chucky Bunn, and Felicia Grace / Edmondson, who I forget her name now, but she was had been married to a guy who worked at Beverly Hills, but he had been with our agency prior to. He was her trainee. She was his trainee. And we go to eat at Pollo Loco in Southgate. And we're sitting there, and Chuck is telling a story about a suicide call that he responded to. And we're sitting outside on the patio. I'll never forget it. We're sitting there talking, and one of the employees is sitting in back of Chuck. She's on her lunch break eating her Pollo Loco chicken, And Chuck is telling a story about the guy who goes over his girlfriend's house. She's going to break up with him. He says, please don't break up with me. If you break up with me, I'll kill myself. He produces a 1911 .45, cocked and locked. And he says, if you slam this door, I'm just going to kill myself. I guess she didn't believe him because she slammed the door. Bam. Before she could get back to her room, boom, he put the gun in his mouth and pulled the trigger.
Wow.
Dropped himself right there on the porch. Chuck rolls up on this, And he's describing how the guy isn't quite dead yet, but he's clearly dying.
Right.
And he's talking about the brains on the porch and the cerebral fluid coming out of his ears. And as Chuck is telling the story, and he like leans over to say something, I see the girl in back of him from El Pollo Loco, who's been ear hustling this whole conversation. And she's got her chicken mid-bite. She's got this look on her face like, I can't believe you guys ruined my lunch like that. But we're just talking about brains and eating, and we're not even thinking about it, right? Because that's just kind of, you develop that.
That disconnect.
It's a disconnect.
You
exactly.
disconnect.
Yeah.
I remember rolling to a drive-by shooting just occurred. I rolled to a few of them, but a couple of them are memorable. One was a woman who was she was 8.5 months pregnant, and she was down. And when I saw her, I was the second unit on the scene. So
East LA?
Yeah.
I know that caper.
Me and my partner got
I
there.
hooked the guy for that, by the way.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I hooked him for that, yeah.
Because we got there, and there was nobody else there. RA was en route.
Yeah.
But, just 8.5 month pregnant female laying in the dirt and grass in that odd position. It was she was just in this.
That's involuntary position to lay in.
Yeah,
sure.
And it just looked not right to me. It was like, oh God, it just. And so here come other cars, right? Here come other officers,
right? And
they're running up with their flashlights. Hey man, is she gone? She gone?
Yeah, she's gone.
Where's she at? As they're running up with their. Finally, I just got so I just pushed these guys. Get the fuck away from here.
Right.
This is my fucking crime scene.
Right.
I had a boot with me.
And there's no point in you being here.
Yeah. You just want to come and look at the chick.
Yeah.
You got to be kidding me.
Yeah. But that comes from that disconnect that sometimes leads to being insensitive.
Right.
Right. Because the same thing that allows us to talk freely about a suicide at lunch is the same thing that leads to that. So you got to have that shield up, or else it'll bother you. But you also got to remember how to act in polite company too, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, of those guys being insensitive.
I'll tell you, when I was on the job, I was married at the time, and I didn't even talk about it. We didn't have, oh, honey, how was your night? We didn't do that. When I left, I just left it and came home and never thought about it, didn't talk about it, whatever, and just dealt with whatever was happening at the house, and then till I went back.
Well, you try to do that. I remember when I was married the first time, we used to write our blood types on the back of our hands when we serve search warrants.
Right.
And so I go in, we had multiple search warrants. I come home, I'm so tired, I still have like my SWAT trousers on, my BDUs on when I come in. I sit down, and my cousin is over, and he's sitting there eating dinner with me and my wife at the time. And he says, hey man, what's that on the back of your hand? And I look at it, I don't say anything. And my first wife's mother was an RN. So she could look at it and see O positive. And she said, she goes, my God, that's your blood type, isn't it? I said, yeah, it is. She didn't say a word. She just got up and walked from the table. We had a long hallway. Uh-huh. She walked down to the hallway and just sat on the bed. Because it had never really struck her that I have the kind of job that I probably should at certain times have my blood type visible. Yeah. In case something would happen. But I never really discussed it with her, but that was one time it came home and hit home for her, and it just kind of like, boom, Yeah. So, you keep that divide up if you can.
Just one last story before we move on to the news of the day or a recap of last week. I remember being at an officer-involved shooting scene, and I was part of the small team, and, this guy got shot. I won't tell you the story of how it all led, but I'll just, I'll bring you in at this point. The guy's laying on the ground, and he's got an abdomen wound. And he's laying on the floor, and he's rolling back and forth. And as he was shot, our little team ran up, and I'm standing over the guy with a shotgun. There were 3 or 4 officers standing with handguns pointing, and the dude's already shot, right?
Yeah.
He's on, and he's oh, call me an ambulance. Call me an ambulance. Oh. And we were all just stunned, And then all of a sudden, somebody in the group, I don't know who said it, say, okay, you're an ambulance.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that. Damn.
And I swear, all of us, we just started cracking up.
Everybody laughed except that one guy.
Well, he didn't laugh.
That one guy didn't laugh.
I don't think he even really heard it, to tell you the truth. But when he said that broke the trance, because
broke the tension,
broke
the chance. Yeah.
We had all responded, and now we're standing over him. I've got this loaded shotgun on him. And then when he said, call me an ambulance, call me an ambulance. And I was just looking.
That's just asking for it. That's vaudeville. That's asking for it.
And when that officer said, okay, you're an ambulance, we just all started, we cracked up for a second. And
then somebody actually called him an ambulance, right? Okay. All right.
And then everybody's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's okay. Well, that's a crime scene now.
Right. Let's get to work here. Let's get to work. And see, and those are the kind of things that people look at and they don't understand. I'm sure somebody's furiously typing away right now on their YouTube page, or they're sending a tweet, or they're making some comment in the chat room or something.
Oh, yeah, somebody like Trish. I knew you guys didn't like the community.
But you got to laugh. You got to be able to laugh.
You have to
no
laugh
matter
if
what.
You're the one out there.
Right.
If you're the uninformed observer watching TV, or taking a class and learning about police work, but you're not a cop.
You're not out in the street.
Yeah.
Doing it for keeps.
That's a whole different perspective.
Yeah, playing it for keeps is a whole different perspective when it's actually your ass on the line. And that's why it's amazing to me that on Facebook everybody's a police tactics expert.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I understand. And here's the thing. I understand that if you don't know and you're asking an honest question,
right?
Then I'll be very patient with you and I'll explain it to you like you're 4 years old. I really will not assume that you know anything about it, and I will break it down without being condescending, hopefully. But just break it down so it makes sense to you. Because as a layman, you don't have that kind of background. But when you make these assumptions that you know, and that shouldn't be that way, and well, my God, and all that shit, come on. Cut it out. We're here. You ask for an expert opinion.
Or as I
We're
like
giving you the benefit of that expert opinion.
Or as I like to say, stop it.
Yeah, that's your favorite thing.
Just stop it.
Yeah, that's your favorite thing. So this is the time when we do the follow-up from last show. Last show was police checkpoints. Are they legal? And we mostly focus on DUI checkpoints who didn't really get – I never worked a DUI checkpoint, but I worked a lot of security checkpoints at the airport, right, when you come in. The difference there is that you don't have to be allowed to come into the airport, right? So you consent to the search or you don't come in,
right?
Pretty much. So that's a little bit different in terms of search and seizure, et cetera.
What's the profile you're using? Because I remember dropping friends off over there, in different times, and at some point, the checkpoint was moved further out to the street almost, and I wonder, I never got stopped. I always got waved through.
Right.
So what's the criteria? You got to be profiling, and I hope you're profiling, and I hope it wasn't just every seventh car randomly stopping.
Here's the deal, okay? So it's supposed to be random unless the officer sees something. Like somebody pulls up, and this is what our guest Warren Redlick said last week about the window coming down. I've had people come through reeking of marijuana with a car, which is like Cheech and Chong we're taking turns driving the car, right? And that car is going to get pulled over. Because at that agency, you're trained to look for vehicle-borne IEDs. To look if the car is riding a little too low, looks like it's heavily laden in the back or whatever, right? Something like that, you'll pull over. And then sometimes it's just random. Sometimes the officer says, I'm going to do every third car. It's up to the officer really at that point, because there's only one officer there who's designating who's going to get stopped at that checkpoint. The other officers are there in secondary to search that car, make contact with the driver, et cetera. So it's up to that officer really. And it's not really a set number, Now, in terms of where the checkpoints are, that is done by computer program. I would think you could just take the dice and roll the dice, okay? I actually went down to USC as part of my official duties and sat down with the people who created that program. This model is called CREATE. I forget what it stands for, but it's based on video game theory for creating random events. But again, we don't have 500 checkpoints, and you have to have some algorithm to make sure they're random. There were 6 checkpoints. All you needed was a 6-sided die like they have in Dungeons & Dragons, and you could roll that as far as I was concerned, okay? But that's why you saw the checkpoints move.
Right.
Because there was one place you'd be in the afternoon, in the mornings, and then there's a place they'd be in the afternoons too. But you could be in the same place. It's just like a random roll of the dice. You could be back on that same spot in the afternoon. So it's all very random. And in terms of, like you said, like you asked, who determines who gets pulled over? It's that one officer. And that officer could be a sergeant with 20 plus years on like I was, or it could be somebody who's fresh out of the academy or off training at least, and he's working overtime. And that brand new police officer decides that you're the one that's going to get stopped. So it's up to the officer.
I think that's that's not a very effective way to do it.
Well, I agree with you. And there was all kinds of things that I saw that I would have done differently, but I wasn't in a position to make major changes, so I didn't. But you're right, 100%.
And on the DUI checkpoint thing, the courts, as our guest told us last week, the courts determined that the stop is legal. What actually occurs at the stop, that's what's questionable.
Right, that's what's questionable, sure.
And so, I've never been a fan of DUI checkpoints.
Well, like everyone has agreed, pretty much, it's not the good use of police resources.
Right. You tie up a lot of resources, cost a lot of money to have all those people out there.
But it was a good use of resources for me because I'd always be out there on overtime. Okay, and as a sergeant, senior sergeant, with a bonus because I was in the K-9 unit, I made quite a bit of money. I won't even say how much money it was per day on overtime, but I didn't mind that I had skipped law school when I saw how much money I was making. And we call it the checkpoint. And I used to always tell people, that's right, it's called the checkpoint because that check is the point. And that's the reason we're out here. That check is the whole point.
I thought it was to protect the community. Golly.
Well, yeah, but I do that 40 hours a week. This is the special time now. This is additional protection for the community. But so our guest, Warren Redlich, talked about going to Coral Gables, Florida, and testing his theory out. And he talked about how it ended up for him. But we didn't show that video, so we're going to show that video now to show what happened when our fair DUI creator went through the DUI checkpoint at Coral Gables. And he did everything by the letter of the law. He had the little thing you hold up to say, I do not consent. Is that, what is it? I do not consent.
I don't consent to searches.
I want a lawyer. And here's my license, or basically, right? And he was saying that you could flip it over and ask is that an order. Good guy, and I really like the way he explained stuff. But this is the result of that stop in Coral Gables.
David Sutter reports. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do tonight.
Attorney Warren Redlich's method to avoid a DUI checkpoint gained a lot of press earlier this year. Instead of lowering your window for police, he told you to show this card, your license, and registration all through the window. It may sound insane, but people began posting YouTube videos of it working.
Sir, I will give you one more opportunity.
That wasn't the case when Redlich tried it in Coral Gables recently.
If you start to interfere with me opening this door, I'm going to break your back window. If that's what you want, I will gladly do it.
Officers didn't go for the documents on the glass technique. After repeated warning, Redlich ended up arrested.
They think that I'm required to roll down the window and hand over the license, and I think I'm not required to roll down the window, and I'm not required to hand over the license.
He believes DUI checkpoints are a waste of time.
They're ineffective. They're publicity stunts. They don't work.
But even more so, Redlich believes they violate the Fourth Amendment, protection from illegal searches.
It's not by chance you ended up in Coral Gables that night.
No, it is not. I deliberately went there
to make an example out of Coral Gables. You see, after Redlich's fair DUI program gained national attention, Coral Gables attorneys took a closer look.
They adopted a policy that was more extreme than anything I had seen before.
Essentially, refuse to open your window, you could be arrested.
You don't get to charge me with a crime. The legislature said this is the penalty. You don't get to stack on new penalties.
The penalty usually is a ticket. In Coral Gables, though, Redlich spent 3 hours in handcuffs.
And I'm confident I'm right. I'm confident they're wrong.
In the end, officers decided to release him. He ended up with just a ticket for failing to exhibit a driver's license. He suspects officers realized they couldn't arrest him.
He's wrong.
Coral Gables City Attorney Craig Lean says the officer has discretion. He added Redlich could still be charged with obstruction of justice.
He's playing a game. He's not here for any purpose but to obstruct the DUI checkpoint, and that's wrong.
The city is considering their options.
What do you hope comes of this?
I have what I need to go to federal court and get a federal judge to say, no, you can't do that.
Meanwhile, the city is digging in, preparing to fight if needed.
We will defend this, and my view is we will prevail.
So should you try this out? Well, that's up in the air. Redlich is getting what he wanted, a challenge to this fair DUI technique in the courts. He plans to file a lawsuit in the next month or two. The case may settle whether or not you have to lower your window at a DUI checkpoint. We'll continue to follow it. David Sutter, CBS 4 News, tonight.
All right, and that was the result of that. He ended up in handcuffs, although albeit temporarily.
Right.
He still got hooked up, and so
he wasn't arrested technically.
Well, if the 849B1 him, then he was just detained, right? 849B1 is the California Penal Code section that says that basically it unarrests you once you've been arrested and even booked in some cases. They will say, hey, you've been released per California Penal Code section 849B1, which says there's not enough. Investigation showed there wasn't enough evidence that you committed a crime or reason to believe you committed a crime, and then you're set loose and you're set free. So that means you were detained only and not arrested, and that's important when you go to apply for jobs or et cetera, et cetera. So we had a really good caller. We had John Jordan who called in, who's a guy who's been active on both of our social media. He was active about this, and I'm glad that he called in because he's a motor officer. He's a police officer who enforces traffic laws on a motorcycle, and he had some really good feedback.
Right.
So, I'm gonna, before we move on, I'm gonna talk about what my former chief Bernard J. Wilson said about this. Was that, and I'm gonna cut down his comment. He goes, "I'm no fan of DUI checkpoints. I think they're ineffective at dealing with the real problem DUIs and are a waste of resources just to crack that nefarious .08 gang, and .08 being your blood alcohol limit in most states, including California. Even so, they are constitutional and they are legal. This guy," referring to Attorney Redlick, "is tilting at a windmill that will never stop turning." And I tend to agree with that based on what you said about grant money and the funding that comes along with doing checkpoints. So that's actually pretty good.
There's a lot, and there's a lot of push from from groups like MAD.
Mothers Against Drug Driving, et cetera. Sure.
They still have a lot of clout, and for a while there, it kind of died off. But in some cities, like I live near the ocean there, so in the South Bay, in a lot of these little smaller cities where there's not a whole bunch of crime.
Right. They got to do something.
Man, DUIs are like a felony there.
Yeah, sure it is. Sure is.
They love them. They drive around looking for any violation of the California Vehicle Code to get to the driver to see if he's drunk or not.
See if he's drunk. And in some of those cities in the South Bay, the beach cities, and we'll leave it at that, there's a lot of bars and a lot of restaurants and a lot of places that people go to hang out at night, especially on the weekends.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, they're so pedestrian. On a nice night, like tonight, you go down by, any of the piers down there.
Right, the Strand, et cetera.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place to be. So
it is, and people get a little lit, and they get in their cars to take off, and, you can end up going to the joint.
Quiet as a kept, my booth's down there at a comedy show.
Oh, is that right?
By the beach somewhere.
Okay, good.
He said, I can't watch the show tonight because I be out with the girls. So
okay. And see, that's the cool part is she knows that you're right here because all she got to do is take up her phone and see exactly where you are, right? So you're pinned down here. So listen, I think we're actually kind of on time right now. It's time for our first break. Wow, I don't know if we've ever hit it right on the mark at 30 minutes. Man, that was good. We planned that, by the way,
After 40 shows.
Yeah, we planned that, So we finally got the hang of it after 40 shows. So we're going to go to a break. We're going to come back, and we're going to continue our freestyle of a mishmash of stories we're going to cover. So this is kind of like our own little freestyle cipher. It's a ride-along cipher tonight here on the Morris Media Network. We'll see you guys after the break.
You're in for a treat.
For more than 2 years now. Business was booming, so assuming I could do something proven like.
All right, and we are back here at the Ride Along Radio Show on the Morris Media Network, and the call-in number is 323-293-3375. This video has been floating around a little while, and I wanted to get to it last week. We just didn't have time, but it's the video. It's a clip from the TV show Southland, and essentially it's about the name of the clip is "It's Discipline, Not Child Abuse," right? And we'll play that video now. We'll get into a story, the story and the conversation about that whole philosophy there. Check this out.
We're here to investigate a child abuse complaint.
I didn't call the police.
I did. She hit me with a belt.
Is that true, ma'am?
I found out from Daniel's teacher. He's been cutting class. And when I asked him about it, he lied. So I hit him.
Come here, kid. How long ago did this happen?
A few hours ago.
How many times she hit you?
3. Whacked me right on the butt.
She hit you anywhere else?
No.
She hit you with her fist or another object?
No. Just the belt.
Has this happened before?
No.
All right, I'm going to take that belt and put it into evidence.
I've been acting out a little, and I felt like I had to. Am I going to jail?
You called the police on your mom because she disciplined you for ditching school.
That's child abuse. I've got rights.
Who told you that?
My friends.
Hit him again.
You know what? You got some bad advice from your buddies from the playground, pal. You don't ever call the police on your mom. Had that been my mom, you'd be calling me from the floor.
I gotta be back here again because you were ditching class. I'm gonna peel this big belt off and I'm gonna hit you myself. You got it? John, get inside.
Have a nice day.
All right. So
that is so funny to me.
Yeah, it's hilarious. And typically, when it's presented that way, because obviously this is a dramatic presentation of this situation, right? And it's kind of tilted to make you take the officer's side just by the way the whole thing is presented and it's scripted and everything, right? But most people do tend to agree that, yeah, that the officer handled it the way he was supposed to handle it.
Well, he handled it in a way that it was this kind of police work that I observed as a police explorer that made me want to be a cop.
Sure.
Today, you can't do that.
Well, today, see, there'd be an issue, right? And that's why his partner was like, John, trying to reel him back in. But
in the series, his partner was new. He was an FTO.
Right.
His partner was a boot, so his partner didn't know any better.
Sure. He just knows what they taught him in the academy and that wasn't it.
Right. And it reminds me of, if you remember Wamba's first book, which was The New Centurions.
Yes.
There was a character in that. It was played by George C. Scott, and his name was Kilvinsky. And Kilvinsky was a salty old dude.
Yep.
No hashtags. Nothing but hashtags, but no stripes. Nothing. He was just a slick sleeve copper.
Yeah.
But he had seen and done it all. But he was this kind of cop. And it was funny because in the book and in the movie,
see, that's a policeman.
He would.
That's the difference.
Exactly.
That's a policeman.
And if the law didn't cover it, Kilvinsky's law covered it.
Right, because he knew how to handle it.
Exactly.
Sure. And you know what? And that's why I look at this and we talk about community policing and problem solving. Back in the day, police officers had to kind of think on the fly to solve problems, and it took experience. Mm-hmm. It took you being an old salt to kind of learn how the best way is to handle things like this. Now a lot of that stuff is condensed into formal knowledge for you to learn, and there's agencies for you to call and a checklist for you to follow, et cetera, et cetera. But that stuff was all formulated on the backs of policemen,
right?
Like that old salt guy there, right? But when they first passed the child, and I'm going to bring it up, the societal pendulum. It used to be that there was no problem with you whooping your kid's ass if you felt that their ass needed whooping, but people were abusing their children too, like bad, right? And then when society became aware of that, no, there was people getting their ass whooped. Man, you never saw Good Times with Little Penny getting beat with the iron and getting burnt with the iron and all that? You never watched Good Times? I know you did. Anyway, JJ and them. Anyway, child abuse became a big thing in the 70s where it was like, oh, there's some kids actually being abused, right? And so they had to change the law just like anything else. And it became to the point where parents were getting in trouble. I know somebody who got in trouble. He had a kid who was out of hand, and he laid hands on this kid who wasn't a small child, and the child called the police on him, and this guy had to go and spend a couple of days in jail. And this is a decent working man who needed to work to support that child and others. And it really was just the guy didn't deserve that, okay? But that was a result of that law going too far and not granting leeway to say this isn't an ongoing situation.
Well, I think child abuse was always against the law, for God's sake.
Yeah, but what did we call child abuse? That was the thing, just like spousal abuse. What was called spousal abuse, right? What was considered to be against the law, and what was within an officer's purview to look the other way on?
Well, in the good old days, if I can call them the good old days, and it was different by the time I came on the job. But prior to when I was on the job in the 80s, came on the job in the 80s. Domestic violence was viewed not as a criminal event, but as a civil matter.
Exactly.
And so they would just say that. They would say, hey, you know what? This is a civil matter.
Right. This is for the civil court or
so
family court or whatever.
You guys need to, take it to.
I tell you, when they changed that, they changed it. I graduated from the police academy on January 7th, I want to say, 1989. And January 1st, a week earlier, they had just changed it to create Penal Code Section 273.5, which made domestic violence a felony if there was any sign of corporal injury inflicted upon a spouse, cohabitant, et cetera, et cetera. And so that was the beginning of this. So my whole police career, it was a big problem.
Right, and even if the victim changed their mind and said, "Oh,
didn't matter.
I don't want to prosecute,"
didn't matter.
It didn't matter.
Must arrest the officer. That was one of the areas where officer did not have discretion.
Right.
Officer had to take it. But okay, so on the flip side of this thing with this child abuse caper, was a couple of guys that you and I both work with them. They get a call to a housing project in East LA, and it was an elderly couple who had a child late in life. And this boy was now a teenager, and his parents were old. And he was one of these young Thundercats, man. He was running over his parents. He was doing whatever he wanted to do. They couldn't discipline him because they couldn't beat him, because he was big and strong, and they were old and weak by that time.
Right.
And that's okay if your child's decent, but this kid was an asshole, you know. So they didn't know what to do. They were wits end. He had disrespected them. He was coming and going when he wanted to go. What could they do? He was so young they couldn't put him out. So they called the police. And fortunately for them, they got these 2 officers that I'm talking about. And they showed up and they said, listen, officers, we only called you here for one reason. We need somebody to beat his ass for us. Okay? We can't do it. We're old and he's a young man and he's out of control. And we're afraid that he's going to end up in some serious trouble. And we can't discipline him. So we'd like for you to handle that for us. Well, a lot of police officers would have said, well, you know, it's not our job to do that. And it doesn't matter if you give us permission.
Right.
We can't legally do it. These officers said, oh, really? Where is he? Okay. And the parents tell him he's down. This is back when you had public phone before teenagers had cell phones.
Right.
He's down at the public phone probably talking to some girl. He's always down there talking to girls. So they go down there. They find him. Junior's matched the description of the kid. He's got the clothes on. It is him. They go up to him, and he's got his back to him. He's on the phone, you know, getting his little Mac on with whatever little teenage girl. And they come up, and one of them snatches the phone out of his hand as he's talking to the girl. He turns around like, remember, he's a young Thundercat.
Right.
So he turns around ready to fight, and he sees it's the police. The other one grabs him by his shirt, and they tell me the story later that evening. And he said you could feel his heart beating through his shirt. And the one who took the phone said, we got permission to beat your motherfucking ass. Now, I'm doing the voices so you know who it is. And the other, with the taller officer, said, and mommy and daddy said we could, so it's all legal. And they took him off under the bridge downtown, as Red Hot Chili Peppers would say, and they beat his ass. Okay? And they told him, you were never to disrespect your parents like this. If we have to come back here, and they will call us, they have our number, we will be the ones that come. And this is going to happen all over again if we ever hear about you disrespecting your parents again.
Wow.
Guess what? Never got another call from those parents or that household.
I'll bet you $1 million. You know, people as they hear these stories that we've told. We haven't done a lot of war stories actually, but
we really haven't.
It's kind of cool. But all the stuff that we've talked about up till now, today, I will be willing to bet that people are their comments are they're gonna be just in disbelief. and how callous we are, how could we do this, and how could we? That's what's coming in the YouTube
That
comments.
was, I guarantee you, but that was these officers providing a service to the community in a way that they felt was appropriate. Okay, now looking back on that, as a seasoned police supervisor, I know that wasn't something that should have been tolerated, and I probably should have gone and told on them, et cetera, et cetera. But at that time, it was something they felt was the right thing to do. And I say it must have worked because the parents never called back. And they didn't see the kid out there doing this nonsense anymore or whatever. Because he realized now, maybe you can roll over your parents, but you can't roll over these 2 guys.
Right.
And we'll be around.
And, you know, it reminds me of a story. I had a friend who worked Compton PD. Before I went into police work, he was Compton. I used to work with him at some other gig. And he was telling me about a DV case call that he got in Compton.
Domestic violence.
Yeah. So they go to the call, and he and his partner, and he was the senior officer, and you know they get there, and the woman, you know, the man comes to the door all kind of Brody. He's Mexican though.
Right. He said all kind of Brody.
He's Mexican. You know, hey, no, it's okay, officer. We don't need you here. We don't need you.
Right. We don't need you here. Right,
motherfucker. He pushed the door open and walked in and said, "Well, we got a call here, so you know, where's your wife at?
Somebody needs us here."
Yeah. And she was in the kitchen. She was crying. So he called her out. She came out. She had a big eye and a big lip.
Oh.
And so the 2 officers see him. So they tell the dude, you know, hey, turn around. They search him, sit him down. And my buddy tells his partner, stand by with him. He goes into the kitchen with a lady. He goes, hey, what happened? Oh, pues, you know, me pegó. You know. Oh, he hit you. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Gracias. Take her back in the room. Siéntese, por favor. Just have a seat there. You, come here. I want to talk to you.
So you do speak Spanish. All right.
I want to talk to you in the kitchen.
Yeah.
He brings him into the kitchen, and he said, it reminded me of when I saw Training Day. You like to hit girls, huh? That's what you like to do? You like to hit your wife? You think she likes it? No, but she boom, and he hit him.
Oh, shit.
He hit him, and he goes, you like that? And now the guy's kind of stunned, you know.
Right, because he didn't see that coming.
The guy hit me. The cop hit me. He can't do that, can he?
Right.
And he said, you like that? You didn't? Did you like that? You said she likes it. Did you like that?
Did you like it? Yeah.
And before he could say something else, no, but boom, he hit him again.
Oh.
And he tightened.
But see, people think this part is cool. They think this story is okay.
He tightened him up, and he told it same thing. If I have to come back here again, not only you're going to the jail, you're going to the hospital first.
Right.
Then you're going to the jail.
Exactly. Because you think you can beat her ass and nobody's going to come.
¿Me entiendes?
Yeah, ¿me entiendes?
¿Me entiendes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactamente.
And those officers took off.
And I bet you they didn't have to go back then.
They didn't go back.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know, the whole point to that story and the other things is that these were the kind of stories I heard and things I saw as a police explorer, that cops were problem solvers, and they were problem solvers for people who lived in the community that they policed. There are people who live there, and they're surrounded. You know, if you take any high crime area, 97% of the people that live there are just working people trying to live their lives.
They're there because they have to be there, or because they grew up there, or whatever.
And they just, for some reason, that's where they live. Whatever the reason is, that's where they live. Whether they like it, don't like it, whatever. And they're raising kids, and they have jobs.
Doing the best they can, like everybody
They're doing the best
else.
that they can.
Sure.
But it's just saw 3% that is responsible for 90% of the problems in those communities. And so the officers of the past, they were the ones who came into a community, and we didn't, quote, do community policing to try to hold fundraisers and chips and dips for kids and whatever. It was chips and dips. It was, I'm coming, if I have to come to your house because you're so out of control, you can't manage your own household. Well, guess what? I'm coming in and I'm managing it.
Right.
And I'm going to say
I'll make some decisions
how
and
this
you ain't going to
goes.
like it.
Yeah, and you may or may not like it, you know. But they solved problems for people. And they helped people by doing some of these things that people would think are just unorthodox, or probably, well, that's illegal, man. You can't do that. That's assault under color of authority.
Right.
Maybe.
Right. But just like the guy getting his ass whooped over with the wife thing, right?
But if you're a drunk Mexican, you come home and now you're drunk, and because you're drunk, you're feeling.
Why you got to be Mexican?
That's what he was. That's what that guy
but
was.
it could be anybody.
I know, but if you're a drunk Mexican and you're a Mexican cop and you get there and this drunk Mexican is getting all beefy with his wife because, you know, for whatever his reason is,
right?
And he's going to tighten her up. Guess what?
Right.
Mexican to Mexican, player to player, pimp to pimp.
Mano a mano.
Tighten you up. And that's what's changed. That's what's different. Today, I feel sorry for these guys that are out there.
But they got to do the job differently. You know what I mean?
And I have, if we can get the POTUS to pull this video up, this arrest that occurred. This was a jaywalking ticket in Fresno, California. A jaywalking ticket of a high school senior that just got way out of control.
Oh, right.
And I want you to watch and listen to the suspect and to the guy taking the video. And this is what officers are facing today. Can we run that one?
Hey, brutality. Hey, give him my. Hey, let me call my dad, cuz. Let me call my dad. Hey, man, why you grabbing me? I'm telling you, sit down. Let him go. Like you said. Let him go. I used to cross walk like you said. Sit down. Hey. Cross walk like you said. Nigga, I follow orders, nigga. Move. Let him go. Hey, cuz. Let him go. All I know is, let him go. All I know is, nigga, you choke me, cuz. You choke me, cuz. Nigga, move. Let go. Get off me, cuz. Sit down. Let him go. Now, let's get up on me. You're going to be arrested right now. Sit down. You can't arrest him. What did he do? Get up, sit down. Hey. Get on the ground. Get on the ground. Get on the ground. Black Lives Matter. Hey, nigga, get up off me. Get off of him. Get up on me, cuz. Black Lives Matter. Let him go. Sit down. Let him go. Get it. What is your name? Don't let go of me. You gonna choke me, nigga? Let go. Huh? Let go. Get up off me, cuz. Let go. Let's go, nigga. Let him go. What the fuck, nigga? Nigga, move. Let him go. Huh? You get up off me. Yeah, you done fucked up now, huh? Let go. Let go. Get up off me. Sit down. You're under arrest. For what? Under arrest. What? Right now for battery on an officer. Battery? I ain't doing nothing wrong. I ain't doing nothing wrong. Get on the ground. I ain't doing nothing wrong. Get on the ground. I ain't doing nothing wrong. Get on the ground now. Black Lives Matter. Get on the ground. Black Lives Matter. Hey. Hey, he's not. He's putting his hands on you. He's not resisting. What the fuck you mean? Black Lives Matter, motherfucker. He's not resisting. This shit is fucked up. The fuck you mean? This is my homeboy. The fuck you mean he's resisting? You got me fucked up. This nigga fucking with him, bro. Get off my nigga. Step back.
Get off of my nigga.
Hey, bro, get off my head, bro.
Get off of me. He can't breathe.
Back up.
He can't breathe.
Back him up.
Hey, bitch. What's the fuck out? Motherfucker, you gonna hit me with the fucking bike, bitch.
I can't breathe, bro. Back up. Back up.
Bitch, don't fucking kick me.
Back up.
I'll break your fucking nose,
Back
bitch.
up.
Kick me again, motherfucker. I'll break your fucking nose.
Hey, come on back.
Look. They're fucking my little kid.
They're fucking you. He's a high school student.
All right, bro.
He's a high school student.
Your hand behind your back.
He's a high school student. They're fucking with him.
What the fuck? What the fuck?
Nah, don't. Move, bitch. I'll swing on your bitch ass. You better watch the fuck out. Nigga, you ain't gonna fucking catch me, bitch.
Hell no. Hey, call my dad, bro.
What's his number, bruh?
All right. Wow, that reminds me of a lot of the ignorance we used to see in the housing project. But you know what? This is a result of a generation that doesn't ever want to face any consequences for anything they did or do. This is, I don't have to listen to you because I don't feel like listening to you.
Right.
That is a respect for authority, but not just respect for authority, an awareness of your responsibility as a citizen to go along with the program, because that contact went way longer than it normally would have gone, and the consequences are now going to be much more severe if he had just acted like he had some sense.
Right. But this is the
there's another part too, but I'll get to that later.
This is what I call the new America. This is Obama's America.
That was happening before, though. That was happening before that.
It was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. You didn't see this kind of stuff happening every day now, every department across the damn country.
But I think that's because of video. Now there's video.
Everybody now is challenging the police. If a police officer says, "Hey, you just jaywalked. Come over here, Holmes. Just stand right here.
Right.
Let me scratch my site. You be on your way. Your signature is not an admission of guilt. Just promise to appear." Yada yada.
Press hard. 3 copies.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I didn't do nothing.
You're under arrest. No, I'm not.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Leave me alone. Leave him alone. I mean, it's ridiculous.
But you know what? A lot of that, Gil.
I'll tell you, I feel so bad for officers who are out there right now, because in the current climate, this Obama administration has taken us back to the 60s.
I don't see how you blame Barack Obama for something like that.
I'm blaming the Obama administration and their anti-cop posture that he's taken since he's become president of the United States.
So you think that kid is influenced by Barack Obama's position on policing?
No, I think because he started yelling at Black Lives Matter. People have bought into this false narrative about cops are racist and cops are the enemy. You know what the greatest threat to that kid is?
We're doing so well, too.
Is another kid that looks just like him. That's his
That's
greatest
the bigger threat. Sure, and everybody needs to realize that.
Not the cop who's trying to write. He's a motor officer. The reason he's writing jaywalking tickets is because it's unsafe for these kids to run from the school. They don't want to go to the light. They just want to run across lanes of traffic.
But maybe he wasn't even going to write him a ticket.
Right.
That's the other thing.
He didn't even get a chance to say what he wanted to do because the guy immediately gets hostile with him, and he tried to calm him down.
But that went on for far too long. There was a whole lot of dancing, and I understand you got a kid, but that kid is obviously pretty physically capable.
Right. And the officer couldn't take him down.
That's what I'm saying, and that's the problem right there. I fault that officer because when somebody starts acting like that, the more leeway you give them, the more they're going to resist and the more they feel empowered to do so, and they think you can't take them down. So what's supposed to happen is that kid's supposed to get leg swept and took to the ground. It's supposed to be quick and violent and sudden and fucking shocking to everybody watching it. But now we get some cooperation.
But I think that the officers today are second guessing themselves now.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because here you got this kid with a phone in your face. And
that's
he's yelling,
fine. Yeah,
whatever.
That's fine.
So it is fine. However, as the officer, he's probably trying to get the kid under control, but he's probably thinking
he's trying to do it nice though.
The same thing. No, he's trying to do it. As he's doing it, the things that are running through his head are the same things that ran through my head when I looked at Red over my shotgun when he had the baseball bat.
Right.
Is this legal? Is what I'm about to do
and
illegal?
That should be
Where's the line? Is my
everybody should ask that question.
Right.
But it shouldn't cause you to not to be able to do your job.
That's right.
And so that's what happened there.
I think there's two things. I think one is his state of mind. He was questioning, like, oh shit, how far do I want to take it with this kid? They're yelling he's a student. They're yelling Black Lives Matter.
Right.
I'm a white guy. I know that had to go through his head. And then the second thing is he couldn't get that kid on the ground.
Yeah. God damn. But you know what? It happens. And hopefully that officer go take some Krav Maga or some judo or
jujitsu,
something, jujitsu, aikido or something.
That's the new thing.
Because if you know
Gracie Academy, those dudes are some bad mofos.
I was taught, yes, they are. I was taught a long time ago, man, that if you're in a situation like that, it needs to be decisive. There's no pussyfooting around. All this ballet in the street and all that shit. All it did was drag that situation out for way too longer than it should have been. It doesn't mean you have to hurt the person, like put them in the hospital, but it needs to be stunning. But it needs to be decisive action that's stunning.
You do have to hurt them. And the reason
that could come out of it. That can come out of it, and that comes out of it. It comes out of it. I'm saying that the idea is to take them into control however you can do it.
The reason you have to hurt them is because when I used to teach use of force in my class, this is what I used to tell people: when the suspect is focused on fighting with you or trying to get away from you.
Right.
His brain is focused. That's his sole focus. My brain, I want to run. I want to, or fuck you, I'm going to fight.
Right. Sure.
Now, until I can cause enough pain to get your brain to change from I want to fight with you to oh shit, I can't breathe. When that switch happens, when the panic sets
it's self-survival now. It's survival mode.
Once the switch, that's when you take him into custody.
Okay, and this guy was a motor officer, right?
Sometimes it takes a choke, or sometimes it takes a C-clamp, or sometimes it takes a baton strike.
There's pressure points. There's all kind of stuff you can do.
A control hold that causes enough pain to get the brain to go, whoop, shit.
He's a motor, right? He had a motor boots?
Correct.
All kind of shin strikes. There's all kind of stuff you can do that's going to get somebody to do something other than want to fight with you.
Yeah, I was wondering, was no takedown,
That's what I'm saying.
At least,
Yeah, I don't get that. We're going to take another. Wow, man, we're whizzing through this hour and a half. We're taking another break. But you know what? Let me say this. You made a comment about people saying, "Oh, people are going to be commenting about. I can't believe they're talking about that. I can't believe that happened." Hopefully, you jumped in the car with us because you wanted to hear the real.
That's right.
And this is the real. I would say this is the realest reality show out because there's no script. We're just telling you what happened. We're recounting it from our perspective. And hopefully giving you some background on
there's
the
no
thought process,
there's no
lens, no filter, no lens, nothing.
Of political correctness.
You're getting it straight.
That's right. And if you don't like it.
Well, I don't know what to tell you. If you don't like it, 323-293-3375. How about that? All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back, and we've got a bunch of other stuff to get to. We'll see you in a minute. All right, and welcome back to the Ride Long Radio Show. We were talking about how real this show is and the realest reality show on the net, on the airwaves, period.
Even on terrestrial radio in Los Angeles, there is not one show that does what we do.
No.
And it blows my mind because you would think in a county like Los Angeles, with all of the stuff happening, and I know we're going to get into the two guys from Inglewood walking around with rifles, for God's sakes,
right,
that were allowed to walk around. But with all of the stuff happening, you would think there would be a place, a show where we could do what we do, minus the foul language, I guess.
Yeah, that's the thing about terrestrial radio.
But I'm surprised that we're there's not something there, and we should really look at.
Well, you know what? We just got to. I think that as we've built it, they are coming, and then we're 40 shows into it, and I think that people have grown to appreciate how honest we are. I think it's refreshing.
I'm not sure they appreciate it. I'm not sure they actually.
Well, they may not appreciate what's said, but I think they can appreciate the candor. Nobody has ever accused us of sugarcoating shit.
Right.
So that part is cool, been watching these Rio Olympics, and in fact, just yesterday I was watching the men's basketball, and watching the USA just dominate everybody. Even Argentina, which got a couple of NBA players on it, just dominating them. And the United States has done really well this time. And of course, there's always got to be some bullshit mixed in. Always got to be some stupidity. As Americans, we can't just go someplace and just be gracious visitors. We got to do some ugly American shit. And that's apparently what happened with our men's swim team, or members of our men's swim team, right? So Ryan Lochte.
Well, it's got to be American, though.
It's
got to be an ugly American show.
That's what they call us, right? An ugly American, acting like ugly Americans, man. And here we are, lying Ryan Lochte and the rest of the men's swim team. Not the rest of them, because you see Michael Phelps wasn't nowhere around that bullshit, right?
He's too busy getting ready to win gold.
Exactly. He's real with his. So apparently they went out to party in the Olympic Village. I worked the '84 Olympics here in L.A., and the Olympic Village was incredible. The one I worked at was in USC. There was one at UCLA too, but I never worked that one. But I was there at USC before the games began, all throughout the games and after the games were over. So I got to spend a lot of time there during that period. And Olympic Villages are very nice. They're set up. There's a lot of hosted parties for athletes. There's like food flowing freely 24/7 and all kind of shit you would think Olympic athletes wouldn't even be eating. I remember seeing Carl Lewis walking down the way eating a pack of M&Ms because they were giving out M&Ms. M&Ms Mars was a sponsor, and so was Coca-Cola. Right. So they you would have a water fountain in a park. They'd have soda fountains. Like you could go get Coca-Cola, Sprite, whatever. Right. Anyway, at these Rio Olympics, they had what they called France, Paris Village or France World or something like that. And it was sponsored by the nation of France, and it was to I remember they were in the running for some Olympic Games coming up, right? I think 2024 Paris is in the running for, I think, something like that. I don't know. Anyway, they had this big party that they threw with a miniature Eiffel Tower and everything else. So these athletes went to that party, okay, and they left and went into town, some local town, ended up at a gas station where they said they got robbed.
Right.
Okay, that was the story. Then they come back, and it's all in the news that Ryan Lochte and other men swimmers were robbed at this gas station
at gunpoint
in Rio. At gunpoint in Rio.
And this was a concern before the games
about safety,
the crime,
and that's why it was such a big deal.
Right.
And I believe that's why the police in Rio wanted to really look at this and see, because this is kind of their country being smeared, right? Mm-hmm. So they looked into it, and the test determined that was a lie. Apparently, what really happened was they went into town after leaving this party. Now, they said they left the party at 5-something in the morning. Yeah. They left the party at 4-something. And come on, Olympic Villages are some of the most secure facilities in the world. Even in 84, what was that? How many years ago was that? 30 plus years ago, right? Yeah. 32 years ago. Yeah. 8 Olympic Games ago. Even then, it was a very secure facility based on the limited technology we had compared to today. Well, there's cameras everywhere now. Mm-hmm. So cameras show them leaving this party, this France party, at 4 o'clock and not 5:30 like they said, okay? Then they're caught on camera at the gas station, and apparently they were trying to get into a bathroom, and they broke the lock on the bathroom trying to get in. Mm. And a security guard comes out. He don't know what the hell's going on. I think he's armed. He is the one who pulled the gun on them and said, hey, what the hell are you guys doing?
Well, they tried to leave this. And
right, and then he makes them pay for the damage or whatever.
Right.
They come back to the Olympic Village, and they say that they got robbed at gunpoint, and the guy took their watches, took their wallets, but didn't take their phones or something. And I think that's how probably because they were smart enough to know that the phone could be tracked. So they said, well, we're not going to say he took our phones, but they took our wallets and our watches. Right. Except, just like when you left the Olympic Village, you were videotaped. When you come back, you're videotaped. And it shows them going through the security checkpoint with their watches on and putting their wallets in the little scanner to come in. All this after you said you got robbed.
Right.
And, of course, the Rio de Janeiro Police Department wanted to push that to let everybody know this is bullshit. You know, it's not as bad as, you're trying to make it look like we're some kind of crime-infested slum, which if you've been to not that big a stretch, but they really are trying. It's a matter of national pride, is what I'm saying. That they're going to step up and say, no, bullshit, that's not the way that went down.
Right.
So now I don't know what's going to happen to him. He ain't getting no more endorsements.
Yeah.
But he was a guy who was probably second only to Michael Phelps in terms of being a recognizable figure on that Olympic swim team.
Yeah, when I saw the video, I was thinking, wow, the security guard, armed security guard, when they got in the car and they were trying to leave, he actually pulled his gun and stuck it in the car.
Wow, that's hardcore.
And I was like, boy, in America, you get an armed security guard doing that, and he's going to jail for ADW or something.
He's going to problem. He's not going to be an armed security guard anymore, that's for sure.
Here the police are using, no, he didn't get robbed with security. See, that was fine. That was okay.
Yeah. Well, that's just amazing to me, man. That it seemed like there's always some silliness, right? We had there was a rape charge on one of the other, not from the United States. These are the only American athletes, I think, to get in any kind of trouble. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know why they lied, because what trouble were they going to get into? You know what I mean?
Well, they would have been drunk and breaking shit.
Yeah, drunk
and
trying
to get away.
Well, yeah, I understand that, because clearly they had to have been drunk,
right?
To act up like that. But I mean, damn. Once they paid the guard off, they could have just hoped nobody would say anything without them having to make up this whole story. So now By the time they figured out these guys are lying, they go to start putting the grab on people, and these guys are already fleeing the country. Okay, and when I say fleeing the country, I mean because they didn't stick around for the closing ceremonies. Who does that? So Ryan Lochte's already back here.
Right.
The other ones are trying to go, and they catch the plane before they close the gates, before they close the door on the aircraft, and they go in and pull them off the airplane. I've done that before. That's actually pretty cool. Yo, you almost had it.
Yeah.
Well, you got to be quicker than that. You know, so that's cool to go on the air. Hey, you thought your ass was gone, huh? Didn't you? Come here, man. So they went on the aircraft, pulled them off, took them into custody, and now it's an international incident over this them being stupid, man.
Yeah, stupid and drunk.
Stupid and drunk. And here's the thing. So now as a swimmer, now what? Because again, you got no endorsements. You're probably not going to be allowed back on the team. You know, and for what?
Well, America has a short memory. You know, a couple of years or so. And
well, if it was Michael Phelps, who's a winner, right? If it was Michael Phelps who's dominant, and maybe, and if not for Michael Phelps, Ryan Lochte would be the dominant guy, I believe. But Michael Phelps is killing everybody. So if that would have been him, yeah. Like you said, America loves a winner. We got a short memory.
Right.
But something like this, where you went and lied on the people and everything, man, nobody.
Yeah, but I don't think, you know, people go, it's Brazil. Yeah, there's a bunch of crime down there anyway.
and there is. Goddamn. Man, I trained police officers in Brazil. Went down and ran a SWAT school back in 2000, and man, some of the stories those people were telling. Like, you guys think our story? Please.
Oh yeah.
Man, we were telling nursery rhymes compared to some of the shit they were saying goes on in Brazil. Look, I met a female police officer down there. Beautiful girl, man. She kind of remind you of Jennifer Lopez. She smoked 3 dudes in one day. 3 dudes, one day.
She wasn't on admin leave from the first one?
No, it was all in one incident.
Oh, okay.
It was all in one incident. Yeah, man. She was a badass. She went in. They had a situation where they had to go into one of those favelas, one of those slums.
Right, yeah.
She's on SWAT. They go in. They get ambushed. Her sergeant gets hit. He goes down. She goes in to get him, has to shoot a guy to get to the sergeant, kills that guy, gets to the sergeant, picks him up, puts him over her shoulder like firemen carry.
Wow.
And on the way back, they get accosted by 2 more people, and she dumps them both. Bam, 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 bam. Kills them both, man. Incredible.
That's badass.
Yeah, she killed 3 in one sitting, man. It's like, damn.
That's 3 notches on the gun, on the...
and whatever she got in Brazil, yeah. Yeah, man, and if you were to talk to her, man, you would never even think she was a cop, let alone a stone-cold trained killer like that. Yeesh. So anyway, Brazil ain't playing, because I don't know any American cops that killed 3 people in one day.
Yeah.
I ain't never even heard of that, not since the Wild Wild West, maybe Bass Reeves or somebody, but not modern day.
Yeah.
So that's no joke. We have something else. We have Milwaukee.
Well, there's a couple stories, and of course, you know, the riots in Milwaukee. Now, this is an interesting story because we had a black criminal with a stolen gun,
loaded gun too,
and he gets confronted by police officers. And as as one of the officers is trying to confront him, the suspect turned and faced the officer, who's also black,
right?
And the officer puts him down.
Yeah. He pointed a gun at the officer. Pointed a loaded gun at the officer.
Yeah, and the next thing you know, the city's burning. But so maybe we'll run a little bit of this video. There's video out there of the flashpoint of the riots. So before it actually became a full-blown riot, this was at the crime scene just after they shot the guy. And as the crowd and the angst begins to build, and you can see it and hear it, as you're watching these officers trying to form a skirmish line while the guys are investigating the shooting scene.
Right.
And it's pretty...
you got to do that.
It's pretty intense. Can we run that one, the Milwaukee one?
I gave her one earlier. We can play that one. It doesn't show that flashpoint, but it just has the CNN story on it.
Okay. Mine was really good.
Well, let's hope. Hopefully this one's good too. Let's roll this one and we'll talk about it.
And things are calming down this hour after a night of violent protests sparked by a police shooting. Crowds there gathered just hours after police say an officer shot and killed an armed man during a foot chase. During the protests, one officer was hit in the head by a brick thrown into a squad car. Police then moved in to clear the streets, as you see here, but they say protesters set 4 buildings on fire and threw rocks at the officers. Milwaukee's mayor spoke earlier about the shooting. Listen.
He was hit by 2 bullets, one in the chest, one in the arm. That individual, it's a 23-year-old man, has died. The officer was wearing a body camera. It is my understanding that the body camera was operating. Because it involved the Milwaukee police and because an individual was killed, the investigation is being led by the state of Wisconsin. So the state of Wisconsin will be the one that will have access to that film from the body camera and is the one that is now undergoing the investigation. As you all know from what happened from that point, things deteriorated. When I left the scene, which was probably a little after 5 o'clock, there was still calm at that scene. Later in the evening, as we all now know, things got out of hand.
Mayor Tom Barrett there of the city of Milwaukee also saying 3 people have been arrested. We heard from a witness who says that she does not believe the unrest is over in Milwaukee.
Just basically awestruck and amazed.
All right. So, okay, here's the thing, and I haven't said it in a while. I guess I need to dust this saying off. Police work isn't pretty, okay? Sometime there's going to be people that are going to have to get shot, okay? Every time the police shoot somebody, it is not wrong. Most of the time the police shoot somebody, the vast majority of the time police shoot somebody, they had it coming.
Right.
You cannot expect to point a gun, loaded or unloaded, but especially a loaded gun at a police officer, and not expect for there to be consequences and repercussions. I don't know what else has been going on in that city. When we look at the Watts riots with the Marquette Fry arrest, August 11, 1965, if we look at the Rodney King riots, for lack of a better term, right, in 1992, there have been things that led up to that. There wasn't just that one thing, okay? Prior to the acquittal of the officers in the Rodney King trial, there was the manslaughter conviction of the woman who killed Latasha Harlins at that liquor store on 89th and Figueroa. People were already upset about that. So the kindling was there, right? And that was just the match. So I don't know what else has been happening in Milwaukee besides maybe some comments the sheriff out there made. But I don't know what else has been happening in Milwaukee to lead up to this, because I don't understand why people would be pissed off about this guy being killed by the police.
Oh, well, I do.
Lay it on me. Let me know.
Here's the thing. In a lot of these high crime, low income areas, people are just angry. They're angry, and here you have a shooting. You have a criminal. He's a gang member. Everybody knows he's a gang member. He's
right. No loss to the community.
Tatted up. Why? He's a loss to his family.
That's to the community, though. Yeah.
But he's out. He's a career criminal, so he's out there victimizing people every day. That's what he does. Each day when he gets up, he goes into his community and victimizes people.
Right, one way or another.
With a gun.
Even if he's just selling dope, he's victimizing the community.
That's right.
He's victimizing them.
So the police are they're the ones who are tasked with stepping in and being that person who steps in between the bad guys and the normal people who live there. And by normal people, I mean people who are not involved in criminal activity. Criminal activity is not normal behavior.
Right.
And so if you're a normal person, you would probably go your whole life and never have contact with the police. Unless you get stopped for a trick.
Or traffic stop, something like that.
Sure. But they're not going to come to your door.
Or you become a victim.
Yeah, or if you become a victim. And so, there's a lot of anger. And the truth of the matter is that in these big cities where this is happening, these are run by progressive Democrats, and their public policy has really failed poor people, and they don't know who to blame, but they keep voting for Democrats, and so you have this anger, and it doesn't take much to set it off. So here's a guy who this is a lawful shooting. In Milwaukee.
By all appearances, it is.
It's going to be a good shooting. Nobody's going to jail. Nobody's going to be disciplined. There's going to be nothing because it's a good shooting. What we call a quote good shooting, close quote.
Right.
And
meaning lawful in policy, et cetera.
Right. And that's going to make people mad because they're going to see that, oh, nothing happened to him. Oh, the system is corrupt. Oh, cops are racist. They just killed him, but he was a black cop. Oh, okay, well, for this one, that's why you don't hear no Black Lives Matter on this shoot.
Well, people were saying that. No, they were running around, not the official Black Lives Matter people.
Right.
However official it is,
exactly.
But yeah, however official it is. But
here's what's interesting is that the sister of the suspect who got shot, she does an interview with CNN, and they did some creative editing. So she's saying, this violence has got to stop. You can't bring this violence to our community. We need our community. She said, we need our
stop burning our shit down.
We need our shit.
Yeah,
and that's where CNN ended the tape.
Right.
Because right after that, she said, take it out there to the suburbs.
Right.
Go to the white communities, but don't do that shit here. We need our weaves.
Right.
I don't wear one, but we need them. Oh my God, this is the new America. This is the new America.
Listen,
because and just this is my final say on this. And I keep talking about it, and you deny it, and other progressives deny it. But there's this.
Don't say other progressives because you put me in the. You were trying to put me in that lane.
You are one, and I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna just tell you this.
Okay.
People that we know, you and me,
right?
Okay. They text me after they've seen a show or two. I get text messages and say, "What the fuck is wrong with George?"
Tell the bitches to call me. Tell the bitches to call me if they want to find out. They know both of us. Tell them to call me.
I'm just telling you because.
Well, here's the thing, though. But you know what?
Because they know, just like I know, you don't apparently, but I know you're a progressive.
Okay, here's the thing with that.
And progressivism is killing the country.
Here's the flip side of that, and this is what people don't realize.
There's an olive branch.
No, I ain't talking about that.
Oh, okay.
I'll get to that at some point, I'm sure. My friends who are liberal think I'm a conservative. And my friends who are conservative think that I'm a liberal.
Well,
I don't agree with any of you people on anything. I almost MF'd you. I don't agree with any of you people on everything. Okay? I got some stuff I'm conservative about. I got some stuff I'm liberal about. I don't march in lockstep with any ideology because the world is too complex for that. My world, at least, is too complex for that. So, to a liberal, I would look like a conservative.
Negative.
To a conservative, I would look like a liberal.
To your new friend Trish Navaratnasingham, my sister.
Navaratnasingham, yes.
The crazy liberal. To her, you're not a conservative.
Yeah, oh yeah. Trish and I don't agree on everything. Just like you and I don't. See, that's the thing. See, if I was, then we would agree on everything. I'm putting my arm as if she was here. I wish she was. I'm putting my arm as if she was here. It's like I don't agree with you.
Check my Facebook page.
And I don't agree with you on everything. I don't agree with her on everything.
I have to call you guys two peas in a progressive pod.
Well, on certain things we line up.
Thank you very much.
But you and I line up on certain things too. So if I'm truly a progressive, you and I would never line up on anything because you're a conservative motherfucker.
I am, and I'm proud, and I'm damn proud of that. But you're a progressive with latent conservative tendencies.
I see, and I just think that I'm a centrist, man. I'm in the middle of the road. I see certain things one way. The world's too complex for that, man. And I tell people, get out and travel more. Get out and see the world and see how other people live and understand that this bubble we've created in America isn't reflective of all the world's values.
And the bubble of your own community or your own family and community.
Right.
You get out of LA, get out of California, it's like a different
and
world.
I'm glad you said that because you accuse your sister of being in her little enclave where she didn't have to be in her in the world with everybody else. But I look at a lot of my conservative friends as being trapped in this echo chamber, where they only talk to other conservatives and people who agree with them. And that's why they're shocked when Barack Obama beats Mitt Romney. That's why they're going to be shocked when Hillary Clinton beats Donald Trump. Everybody else can see this shit coming. But they're locked in this little echo chamber where they disagree with each other and they give each other reach arounds and all the rest of that shit. And all they do is stroke each other's egos, and they don't realize that the world is bigger than what you think. And so people who know both of us and say, what's wrong with George? Well, a lot of them met me when I was 23 years old, just like you did. I was 23 years old when we met. I'm 50 years old now. I'm a full-grown man with grandkids and shit. So, yes, if I had not progressed or changed or had any kind of ideology shift in that period of time, then what would I have done with the preceding 27 years? Just like you. And people don't believe this. You used to be a lot more liberal than you are now.
Correct.
And I tell people that, and they go, really? And don't think I ain't had people ask me, what the fuck's wrong with Gil? People that know us both. Because we did this kind of a shift as we moved to away from the center.
Because as you age,
or maybe toward the center, I don't know.
As you get older, you just become more conservative. You realize that.
But see, I haven't.
A lot of I know you will though. I'm just telling you, you will.
I wrote it for Ronald Reagan in 1984. That's how conservative I was.
Okay, so I don't know what happened to you, and I can guess what happened to you, and it has to do with the establishment Republican Party. It's created their own mess. They created Donald Trump by not, in the 2010 midterm elections, America took a conservative turn to the right because they said, oh, this guy's the Obama guy. He's kind of out there. We got to turn the country. We got to readjust it. And they voted in these conservatives that, in different positions, and they wanted them to go to Washington and undo some of this progressive nonsense that was hurting the country. Well, they refused to do it because they didn't want to be disliked. They didn't want to be called racist. They didn't want to be called names.
But the Tea Party went there with that mandate.
But I know they went there with a mandate and didn't deliver
because they wanted to be reelected. They wanted to play the game.
That's right. A huge part of conservatives now say, as I do, there's no real difference between a Republican and a Democrat anymore. The Clintons belong to the same millionaire club that the Bushes do, that the Romneys do, that everybody, that the Obamas do. They're all this one group, and they are not enemies. We're the ones who are dumb enough to fall for this political theater that happens on TV every night, and we buy into one side or the other, and we think, oh, well, whatever my side is, that's the right one.
And that's, man, see, everything you just said in the last 35, 36 seconds, I totally agree with. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I cannot even watch the news anymore because if I turn to CNN, they're telling me how great Hillary is, and she's not, and how bad Trump is, which he ain't that bad. And then I go to Fox, and they're telling me how great Trump is, and he's not, and and about why we shouldn't vote for Hillary, which I happen to agree with. But I can't take it anymore. I can't watch it anymore.
Well, and that's why I always tell people, get your news from more than one source. And yes, we've gotten political here on the Ride Along Radio show tonight. Kent Lee would be thrilled at this turn of events, but he's probably somewhere in his bunker in Arizona. Actually, he's not. But anyway, but I agree with you, and I think I tell people, get your news from more than one source. That's why I get up in the morning. And I will check CNN, but I'm also going to check the BBC. I will also check Al Jazeera English, and I got in the habit of watching Al Jazeera when I was working in Africa for a little while. There's other sources of news, and I like these foreign sources because they don't have a dog in the fight like Fox News and CNN does.
They do, but
not to the same extent.
Russia Today, Al Jazeera, BBC. I do like BBC. I particularly like RT, Russia Today, and Al Jazeera for only one reason. If you want to know what the real dirt is on what the United States is doing, you got to go to those because your media is not going to tell you that.
Thank you. Thank you.
They have an agenda and they have a spin to it that I don't always agree with.
But you're going to hear stuff from a different perspective.
At least I can hear it,
right?
And I can know it.
Right.
I won't get that from my media, and as David told, David Cruz.
We got to get him back on here.
He's an award-winning TV and radio journalist guy, and that guy, he's kind of out of it now because he's had his fill. Yeah. With trying to go along to get along and playing the game and not being able to do real reporting, and that is, here's some facts. Here are some people don't want facts anymore.
Right. And the people that control those media corporations have an agenda.
They have an
agenda.
And
that's really, and I keep telling people, get your news from more than one source. Travel outside the country, too. Mm-hmm. I know some people who are full-grown ass people who have never been outside the United States, but they got all these fucking opinions about how the world is.
Yeah.
And how do you know? How do you know? You ain't never been nowhere.
I was gonna post this video on my Facebook page about the Canadian Border Patrol. There's a show on it's on Netflix, and those guys and gals. Let me tell you something. For all these Americans who think, "Well, I'm going to Canada if Trump wins. I'm going to move to Canada." No, you ain't. You ain't going nowhere. They don't just let you in. You don't.
Right.
It's not like America.
You better sneak over.
It's not like you can just walk in and say, "Okay, I'm here."
Right.
And now I'm not a citizen, but I love you, and because I love you,
you're gonna get the universal health care and shit. And you're not a citizen. You ain't paying no taxes.
You're not getting infected. What you're going to get is deported.
Right.
And I agree. Just people have such a myopic view of they think their world is the world.
Yes, and I hate that shit, man.
And it isn't.
And that's why I can't camp out in either sector for too long. Man.
And before we get too far away, because I think we're probably
we got a last video. We're going to show you Inglewood open carry protest, and then we're gonna start rapping. So listen, we had an incident, and in fact, I'll let you go ahead and intro that because you have some strong feelings about it.
Well, there was an incident the other night where there was these two male blacks walking around the city of Inglewood, which is it used to be predominantly black, but now it's predominantly Hispanic, actually.
Is it?
Yeah.
Going there.
Yeah. And so, but these guys were walking.
Indians. I'm seeing a lot of Indians there, too.
Like
tech support, not casino.
Oh,
yeah, tech support Indians, not casino Indians.
Dot Indian.
Dot, not feather.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
So anyway.
Was that racist?
I don't know. But there's these two guys with rifles.
Let us know.
And they're walking around the community. So people see that, like, hey, whoa, why these guys dressed like, one of them was dressed in full battle rattle.
Yeah, sure.
So they call Inglewood PD. Now, Inglewood PD makes an interesting decision on how to handle this. Back in the day, you would have set a line. The guys, okay, let's box him in.
Right. Let's deal with it. Send a dog, perhaps.
Let's start talking to this guy and get him to put that thing down and step away from it, or it's going to go real bad real quick right here. They didn't do it. They chose to stay back.
Right.
And because they did, these guys walked around for an hour. Two of them walking around Inglewood. One of them had a rifle that had a magazine in it, which was an extended magazine, which is illegal to possess.
Well, it looks like it could have been pinned at a lower mag capacity, but it's a full body magazine.
So so I don't know if it was loaded or not. And the second rifle didn't appear to have a magazine in it either. So these two guys are walking around, and they walk around for an hour. But they're protesting. What they're protesting is police violence.
Right. Well, they talk about that in the video. So let's roll the video.
Let's run the video.
And you'll the one that says police monitor 2 men openly carrying rifles. Okay.
The 4-minute one is
right. But it stopped. But stop it when the guy walked. I'll just roll it. We'll get to the good part. Yeah. I'm gonna have to run back in here and put my headphones on.
3 men are holed up inside an apartment after walking around Inglewood with rifles and dressed in body armor. Eyewitness News reporter Leo Stallworth is live in Panorama City where the situation is unfolding. Leo, what's going on?
Well, we're about a block and a half away from an apartment community where we have been told that those armed protesters went inside of just about 2 hours ago and apparently could still be inside of that apartment community. There was a mothership, an LAPD helicopter hovering over the apartment complex. That helicopter has since peeled off. There's no evidence that the armed protesters have left the building. I'm here with Carmen Red. You've been tracking these protesters all the way from when they were in Inglewood several hours ago, armed in military fatigues. What were they saying? What was their point?
It was a very scary situation. They were pressing the Black Lives Matter issue while holding signs and assault weapons. They stated numerous times that they were waiting on the police so that they can kill the police. They said too many black lives have been, too much black blood has been spilled out here, and it was time for some cops to die tonight.
And obviously they're referring to the number of police shootings involving African-American men.
Yes, that's what they were talking about, and particularly something in Wisconsin where the officers killed a young man recently. They were speaking on that, and they were speaking to
apparently an armed young man who was shot by police.
Yes, yes, and they were speaking to the tune of it was just too much, and they were here to make their point, and they were very agitated. They seemed very serious. And
kind of scary for you to watch this whole thing unfold?
Very scary. There's a lot of civilians out there. There was people driving by. It was a scary situation.
And police just stayed back, not engaging these protesters?
Still to this moment, I have not seen a single cop car.
Okay, well, we know that they were staged in the command post about 2.5 blocks away from this apartment community, and it looked like an army of police, but not coming anywhere or any closer to this apartment complex.
Yeah, still, I haven't seen anything. There hasn't been much action. I'm not familiar with the tactics, but it still remains. You have 3 armed suspects with assault rifles talking about killing people.
Thank you. Carmen Red, a witness. We also hear from one of the protesters. Let's listen.
Let it be known that this is a peaceful protest, and I'm within my constitutional right. I'm going to actually. If they violate that, that just goes to show how phony they are. That's why they want to take the guns away. Because once they do that, they can come in, rape your wife, rape your kids, because they got guns, but you don't.
All right. So that's the crux of that, and that was I wanted to get to the part where we actually hear from the suspects themselves.
Yeah,
that's something that you're right would have been tolerated a while ago. But I think that the political climate in the country is such that we've seen a lot of white guys involved in open carry, and they don't get proned out.
But that's in states where open carry is legal. There's no open carry in California.
Okay, so now we're not talking about a weapon like a handgun. Carry it openly in your holster. That's a lot of guys were open carry like that. These guys weren't brandishing. They weren't pointing their guns at anybody. Like, well, I guess they could be brandishing.
That's brandishing.
That is brandishing. Yeah. Because pointing your gun at somebody is actually ADW.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I guess that would be brandishing. So why do you think they took so long to take them down or deal with them?
Well, here we are back in the new America. This is the new America. Cops cannot do their job in this anti-cop climate. They're getting so much pressure from the public, from activists, from the media who don't understand police work, don't understand how it's done, have never done it. And when they see something like this, I will bet you in the comments section when this thing runs on YouTube, the comments are going to be, well, that's a smarter way to do it. Why confront them if
Right, because nobody died. Nobody was injured at all.
The reason you confront them is you cannot. This is not the wild, wild west. We cannot allow citizens to just say, okay, that's it.
I'm going to do it too.
I'm gearing up.
Sure.
I'm patrolling my streets. But I'm not patrolling my streets to keep the community safe from crime. No,
this is a protest.
This is a protest, and I'm patrolling my streets to keep the community safe from the cops. Although I have no legal right to walk around,
right? Exactly,
carrying this, and that's the problem.
Well,
but we can't let these damn nuts decide which laws they're going to follow and which ones they're not, just because we're afraid to we might have to use force, for God's sake.
But if you're a 2A guy, though,
that is the new America.
As supporters of the Second Amendment, which we both are, we have to look at that and say, yeah, well, and this is what the guy said. Hey, if they're going to come take our guns, then let's see how they respond to that, because he's talking about the unarmed populace being vulnerable to tyranny.
Correct.
He didn't say those exact words, but that's where he was going with that, right?
But he means tyranny from the police.
That's the government.
Not the government.
That's the government.
He don't mean the government.
But that's the first. Listen.
Look, he's not talking about the government that provides the welfare checks and the GR checks.
He's talking about the government, period.
He ain't talking about that government. He's talking about the police.
Listen, and that's who's going to do it. So I see these guys running around with these 3% shirts on, saying that we're the 3% that's going to stand up. You're talking about you're going to shoot the police when they come to take your guns. They're not sending the fucking mailman to take your guns. They're not going down to the local transit authority and having the bus drivers come take your guns. They're sending law enforcement to take your guns if it ever happens.
That's right.
And so if Dallas shocked you, that's what that 3% shit looks like. It looks like dead police officers. It looks like dead citizens. So as a pro Second Amendment guy, I also have to balance that against what that looks like, and that we know the police will be the tool used by the government should it ever come to that. Should they ever try to repeal the Second Amendment and come get your guns? Mm-hmm. California veto Gunmageddon, by the way, if you're paying attention to what's going on with California gun laws. It looks like police officers coming to your door, knocking on the door. So that's why everybody talks about, that's what he's talking about, as far as they come to take your guns.
Well, that's right. And, in 2011, I remember in 2011, after it was 2012, after the Sandy Hook shooting in December of 2012. Right. After Sandy Hook, and I spent a year on the radio with David Cruz about this, and we used to talk about guns and all this stuff. But after that, one of the things Joe Biden, the vice president, said,
right.
He said to somebody in an interview that he was going to encourage the president to use executive order to write more stringent gun control across the country. And there was a backlash to that in the shooting community.
Yes.
And there was a guy from back east. His name is James Tactical.
James Yeager.
And
Tactical Response.
And he did a video that day, and he said, and if they try to come and get my guns, I'm going to start shooting people.
Well, James Yeager's his former chief of police, by the way.
And then a year, within an hour, he took it down, but it was too late. It was already out. And I remember when I saw it, I was thinking, well, who's he going to shoot? This is going to have to be other cops.
You know that, yeah. That's what I'm saying. That's why I said James Yeager's a former chief of police, man.
But here's for a hot minute. But so the point is that in 2011 is when we really thought, whoa, here he comes now, and he's going to use Sandy Hook as his reason. And there were sheriffs around the country, and there were 3 in California. There were sheriffs who wrote open letters to the DOJ, to the FBI, saying, if you write new in federal gun laws that are restrictive, we're not going to enforce them in our county, number one. And number two,
I'm not going to let you enforce them.
If you come in to enforce them,
Right.
we're going to stop you at the county line.
Right.
Now, that's when I got scared because I thought, man, these guys are actually talking about having civilian or local sheriffs and police, probably sheriffs and police, I think some police department, facing off with feds.
And what does that turn into? It turns into how the military comes, because that's federal too. It's going to be a bad scene, man, if it gets that far. We have to make sure it doesn't get that far. Damn. We covered a lot of ground today, folks.
Is that it?
That's it, man. We covered a lot of
man.
ground. We went.
I still had more to say on
Yeah,
guns.
me too. I got a lot, but we can save some of it till next week. And we will be back here next week, next Thursday, the 25th, on the Morris Media Network. So until that time, I'm George Holt.
I'm Gil Contreras.
And this has been Right Along Radio. Hey, you can follow us on Twitter at Right Along Radio. Send us an email, rightalongradioshow@gmail.com. And you got some social media, right?
Yeah, and if I have some videos that are posted on my Facebook page, and if you just go Gil Contreras Investigator on Facebook, it'll pop up, and I've got some longer videos that really drive home the point, and especially the Milwaukee thing. I really wanted you to see another example of the new America. And then I'm on Twitter at 1035 Report.
There you go. So check out Gil's stuff, and we'll see you next week here on the Right Along Radio Show. Stay safe.